Ladies and gentlemen, what we're witnessing is nothing short of domestic terrorism against President-elect Trump's incoming administration. In the past 24 hours, nearly a dozen Trump nominees have been targeted with coordinated bomb threats. Matt Gaetz, Lee Zeldin, even Commerce Secretary nominee Howard Lutnick, all targeted at their homes. Bomb squads, sniffer dogs, FBI agents scrambling across the country. And where's the mainstream media? Well, they're silent, but here's what they don't want you to know. These aren't just random acts. It's clearly a calculated deep state operation to derail Trump's administration before it even begins, and we have the evidence to prove it. And in these dangerous times, protecting yourself isn't just an option, it's a necessity. That's why I trust chuckdefense.com/next. When I saw Chuck Norris' video about personal security, I was amazed. Here he is, a man in his 80s, still training, and he's still ready for anything. His secret, a revolutionary approach to personal protection that anyone can master. Chuck is not surviving, he is thriving, and his methods can work for you too. Don't wait until it's too late. Visit chuckdefense.com/next or click the link in the description. Your safety and your family's safety could depend on it. Okay, let's get into it here. This was the big news breaking today, 24 hours before Thanksgiving. The deep state secret war, bomb threat on Trump nominees. That's what we have here for you. Okay, so the Trump cabinet nominees and elected officials who've been identified as targets of bomb threats or swatting attacks. Okay. We have, wow, all these people.
To send a heavy.
Multiple Trump picks have been targeted by violent bomb threats and swatting. That, according to the Trump transition team. No injuries have been reported. Brian Yennis is live from West Palm Beach, Florida, with the latest on all of this. We're beginning to get a little more information, names being added to this list. What do we know, Brian?
Yeah, that's right, Molly. Well, sources tell Fox News that nearly a dozen of President-elect Trump's new administration picks have been threatened, at least since Tuesday night. And we now know the identities of at least 5 of those appointees and nominees that have received those threats. We begin with Trump's pick for CIA Director John Ratcliffe, then his nominee for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, Brooke Rollins, his pick for Agriculture Secretary, and his nominee for the Environmental Protection Agency, Lee Zeldin, who says a pipe bomb threat was sent to his family with a pro-Palestinian themed message, and his pick for United Nations Ambassador Elise Stefanik. Stefanik is Trump's nominee, like I said, to be at the UN. Her office says a bomb threat was made against Stefanik and her family. New York State, County, and U.S. Capitol Police responded immediately, and everyone is okay. But in a statement, her office said, quote, "This morning, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, her husband, and their 3-year-old son were driving home to Saratoga County from Washington for Thanksgiving when they were informed of a bomb threat to their residence." The Trump transition team says that there were nearly a dozen people that were targeted beginning on Tuesday night with, quote, "violent, un-American threats to their lives and those who live with them." The threats range from bomb threats to swatting, which is making prank calls to send a heavy police presence to someone's home. Now, according to the Trump team, local law enforcement responded to the threats and visited the homes of the nominees and appointees that were affected. Now, meantime, last night, President-elect Trump announced 6 new picks for his administration. Headlining those picks, Kevin Hassett, director of the White House National Economic Council, Jameson Greer as U.S. Trade Representative, and Dr. Jay Bhattacharya as director of the National Institutes of Health. It should be noted, Molly, that the FBI has released a statement saying that they are aware of these bomb threats and swatting incidents and that they are working with local law enforcement. Molly?
Yeah, the threat.
I don't put much faith in the FBI getting to the bottom of anything. News 12, New York. Police say bomb threat made against NYC property owned by Howard Lutnick, President-elect Trump's nominee for Commerce Secretary, who is leading the charge to get rid of the income tax and institute the tariff plan that Donald Trump has in place. So no doubt a lot of these people are going to be creating enemies. When you talk about gutting the deep state, like Donald Trump's administration is about to do, there's going to be a lot of pissed off bureaucrats with an axe to grind. And of course, we have Joe Biden to blame for this. Remember when Joe Biden said Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundation of our republic. Remember this moment? Yeah, all of these things can be traced back to the hatred and vitriol that was spread directly from the Biden administration. Who will ever forget this?
We must be honest with each other and with ourselves. Too much of what's happening in our country today is not normal. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic. Now, I want to be very clear up front. Not every Republican, not even the majority of Republicans are MAGA Republicans. Not every Republican embraces their extreme ideology. I know, because I've been able to work with these mainstream Republicans.
No, he means establishment shills.
But there's no question that the Republican Party today is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans. And that is a threat to this country.
Yeah, see, it's a threat it's a threat to them when you hold them accountable. When you say, "Oh, you took an oath. You took an oath to the Constitution to defend it, right? So follow it." So when you hold them accountable, they consider you a threat. When you uphold the Constitution as the highest law of the land, they call you an extremist. That's the problem we have in the country today. Here's more. Nearly a dozen of Trump's top team targeted with bomb threats at their home. Here's some more news on this.
That is one legal immigrant in this country. Not true. They're focusing on criminals. So they've been fed so much BS, and that is why this is happening. And the Democratic Party is 100% responsible for these threats. They need to come out and actually speak up. I'd like to hear from Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris loved to talk about the hate against the Palestinians during the war, right? Why doesn't she come out and say, look, anyone out there who's trying to target a Republican, especially someone who is running for office, it is absolutely unacceptable. I guarantee you we will not hear a word from the vice president or the president on this. Well, it's
because Kamala Harris is, she's hungover right now. She really can't go in front of the camera. I mean, she can't even do her job.
Vacationing in Nantucket.
Yeah, such a great point, because we went through this, Doctor, with two horrific attempted assassinations of now President-elect Trump. And while at the moment it seemed to foster a call for unity and a tamping down of that rhetoric, it seemed to then just foment once again right after. This is exactly the right time to have the administration come out and say, we do not support this.
The Biden administration constantly said that they were for unity and they wanted to bring Americans together. And so that shouldn't stop just because they lost the election. You guys, glossed over it briefly, talking about the resources that are wasted with these threats. These threats are being made by cowards. But the thing that they're doing is they're un-American, but they're un-American in the sense that the only people who are really getting hurt here are Americans, and your citizens are getting hurt here. Each time they call out for those swatting, that's about $10,000 to taxpayers to cover that. Not to mention, we already have longer than normal response times for EMS and emergency services. This week, Thanksgiving week, is one of the busiest weeks in the year for emergency services. So you have people at home having heart attacks and strokes, and they're not going to get their ambulance because you have these cowards at home who are trying to upend our democracy. And this is the true threat to democracy.
I was about to say that. These people are the true threat to democracy. They want to say you are a threat to democracy. Trump is a threat to democracy. Well, these people are the true threat to democracy. They are trying to overthrow the will of the people. Now, there is a serious mandate. Donald Trump, with his number of electoral votes and his mandate from the popular vote, you can't go against that. But you have these factions in the lunatic left and members of the bureaucratic deep state that do not want to relinquish any power. And they will stop at nothing. We already saw 2 assassination attempts. Let's take a look. It looks like, what is this? ABC,
targeted with serious
CBS,
a scare for
whatever, it doesn't matter. It's one of the mainstream BS channels.
12 of President-elect Trump's cabinet nominees who have been targeted with serious threats. And since they're not yet official government officials, they get no Secret Service or Capitol Police protection. Amber Cagliano has the latest.
A dozen Trump cabinet picks have been targeted with death threats, bomb threats, and swatting. The Trump transition team says last night and this morning, several of President Trump's cabinet nominees were targeted in violent, un-American threats to their lives. They call the threats dangerous acts of intimidation and violence.
No one should have to live in fear because they have been asked to serve their country.
The Thanksgiving holiday attacks appear to be orchestrated and well coordinated, targeting homes thousands of miles apart. The nominees are still private citizens, so they don't yet have the protection they would once their nominations are confirmed. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, named the new UN ambassador, says,
Yeah, so we got more on this. James Dunn, Matt Gaetz, Lee Zeldin had bomb threats at their homes this morning. This is way worse than grandmas entering the Capitol on January 6th. Matt Gaetz posting a quote tweet to Lee Zeldin. Lee Zeldin wrote, "A pipe bomb threat targeting me and my family at our home today was sent in with a pro-Palestinian themed message. My family and I were not home at the time and are safe. We're working with law enforcement to learn more as the situation unfolds." And Matt Gaetz simply writing same. Charlie Kirk also posting 9 hours ago, the Trump-Vance transition confirms multiple cabinet nominees, administration appointees were targeted last night and this morning with violent bomb threats while others were swatted. Despicable behavior. Jack Posobiec, urgent notice. The left's playbook against Trump supporters has taken a dark turn. They've escalated from riots and protests to swatting, and let's call it what it is. These are not just pranks, they are death threats aimed at our president-elect Donald Trump's appointees and incoming cabinet members. Here's the harsh truth. Swatting isn't some harmless game. It's a tactic deployed by the radical elements within the left-wing cult that has been emboldened over the years. These incidents are designed to provoke a lethal response from law enforcement. Think about that. A lethal response. A SWAT team raids your house, and one false move and somebody could die. That's the intent. That's what these people want. And he says it's a game of Russian roulette with real bullets. You might remember the 2 assassination attempts on President Trump this year. Those weren't isolated incidents. They're part of a pattern. This swatting spree against Trump's team is cut from the same cloth. The same violent cult mentality, the same hatred, the same refusal to accept reality that drives these acts. They lost. They cannot take it. We spent all day yesterday warning about leftist reprisals. Look at the leftists and their violent rhetoric on Blue Sky. Targeted harassment is a direct threat to the lives of our leaders. It's not just about disruption. It's about causing harm, potentially fatal, through fear and tactical deceit. Echoes of violence. This is the same playbook. The radicals who thought they could end Trump's life to end his policies. 2 attempts already, and now they're switching tactics, but the intent is the same. The left's war on democracy. When you can't win at the polls, you attack the players. It's a strategy born out of desperation, a belief that their right to power overrides the rule of law and basic human decency. Imagine being an incoming cabinet member or an appointee trying to serve your country, only to have your family awakened by armed police in the dead of night, all because someone decided your political alignment was their personal target. It's not just irresponsible, it's a direct assault on American governance. We must see these swatting incidents for what they are, an extension of the cancel culture that has graduated from social media shaming to physical intimidation. The left has weaponized every tool at their disposal, including law enforcement, to push their agenda. America, this is a wake-up call. We need to protect our public servants, not just for their sake, but for the sake of our democracy, our republic. The left's violent cult mentality has been unchecked for too long. They've gone from words to actions, from protests to swatting, and from that to outright assassination attempts. We need to stand up, speak out, and demand accountability. It's not about politics. It's about preserving the peace and safety that we as Americans deserve. Swatting is not just a crime. It's an act of terrorism when directed at our leaders. Stay vigilant and stay frosty. Yeah. This is what we got to deal with now. Donald Trump Jr. also reacting. The violent left's been calling in bomb threats and swatting incoming members of the Trump administration. Enough is enough, he says, with this type of deranged crap. Remember when Donald Trump Jr., somebody mailed white powder to his house in the first administration? And that was nuts. Fox News, of course, Trump cabinet nominees targeted with violent un-American threats. Lee Zeldin, we read that already. Here is Lori Chavez DeReamer. Last night, my family and I were targeted with a pipe bomb threat at our Oregon home. Thanks to the quick response of the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office, we were safe. We appreciate their dedication to protecting our community. Yeah. Here's Trey Gowdy on this.
This news of these bomb. Trey, what's your first reaction to hearing about this news of these bomb and swatting threats?
Yeah, it's hard enough to get good women and men to be interested in serving in public life. And then when you add to that credible threats of violence, I know the Trump transition team said that this was violent and it's abhorrent. I would add one more word to it. It's criminal. And the FBI needs to prioritize this, and you better start making arrests. And look, there's this whole fight over encryption, whatever it takes to identify people. You can't hide behind some fake server, some nom de plume. Go find these people that are making threats. It is a federal crime to do what they are doing. So to the FBI, go fix this as soon as possible. Start putting people in jail.
We don't know more than we do know right now about the source of these threats, Trey. The FBI is not sharing anything. It's speculative, but it is important context, I think, to point out that this comes as the Department of Justice is investigating and actually charging Iranian officials with plotting assassination attempts against the former president, the incoming president.
Okay, I wouldn't go that far. I don't think this is Iranian, okay? I think this is deranged leftists or coordinated by the deep state.
Folks that were senior in his first administration, as well as some sitting senior prominent Democratic officials, could be a foreign threat, could be a domestic threat. We don't know this hour, but it's important to flag that. Do you see any potential ties?
Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, I got friends, I won't call their names. I can't even hug them when I see them because they're surrounded by a security detail, and they've been out for 4 years now. So the Iranians are certainly part of it. But you and I also recall, Stevie Scalise was not shot by an Iranian. Paul Pelosi was not hammered by an Iranian. So there are also domestic threats. It is the FBI's job to investigate this. These are crimes threatening.
I like that he brought up Steve Scalise. Remember that deranged leftist Bernie Sanders supporter that shot them all up while they were playing softball? Yeah.
Blow up someone's house, threatening to do harm to someone, whether you're a government official or anyone else, it's a federal crime, particularly if you're talking about mail or mail boxes. So the Bureau, whether it's Iranian or whether it's somebody from domestic, to me, I don't really care. Go find them, go prosecute them, and put them in jail as long as you can. It's hard to get people to go into government, Julian. And this, when you start threatening Elise Stefanik's child, when you start threatening John Ratcliffe's 2 daughters, please.
Part of me feels like when you couple this with everything you just laid out, it might be that this is the new normal for people who seek higher office in the United States, which is an abhorrent thought, of course, but we have been dealing with this now for years.
Right. And you're not going to get people. You're not going to get the Mike Pompeos of the world, the Lee Zeldins, Elise Stefanik. You're not going to get the John Lee Ratcliffes. They don't need this. It's a cut and pay for all 4 of them. So they don't need it. If you want good people, look, you can't stop crazy people. We all get crazy phone calls. Well, maybe you don't, but the rest of us get crazy phone calls. There's a difference between that and an active threat to harm someone or their family. The FBI, for all the stuff they do that's not their jurisdiction, this is your jurisdiction. So go do whatever you need to do to identify it. If it's a foreign threat, let Biden and Trump deal with that. If it's a domestic threat, go figure out who it is and charge them and punish them to the fullest extent of the law, or you're just not going to have good people willing to go through this anymore.
Trey.
Yeah, again, I don't put any faith in the FBI getting to the bottom of any of this. They are a complete failure. Here's CNN covering this as well.
Breaking news coming into CNN. The Trump transition team says several cabinet nominees and other administration appointees faced violent threats overnight. Let's go back to CNN's Steve Contorno, who has the details. So, Steve, what are you learning?
Trump's campaign and transition team, I should say, putting out a statement saying that several members of his cabinet and administration, the people he has named so far, were targeted in a, quote, swatting and also bomb threats. Swatting is, of course, when you call in a false crime in hopes to get a police response to someone's home or a specific location. And at this point, we don't know all the administration officials who were involved, though Elise Stefanik, the congresswoman from New York, who is Trump's pick to be the UN ambassador, put out a statement that said that she and her residence was one of the targeted homes. We have also reached out to the campaign for more details, as well as law enforcement officials, and the FBI now telling us that they are, quote, aware of numerous bomb threats and swatting incidents targeting incoming administration nominees and appointees. And they're working with their law enforcement partners, and they're taking all of these threats seriously. So this is something that has been happening more and more recently with public officials and politicians, where these swatting threats and bomb threats are being called in, and we are learning that this is now targeting the Trump administration, and we are waiting for more details from both the transition team and from law enforcement. Manu?
Yeah, these swatting incidents happening across the country, incredibly dangerous, of course, and sapping resources from law enforcement and putting people's lives at risk as well. Steve, we'll come back to you if you learn any more information. Thank you for that report.
Yeah. So what else have we got here? We got Lee Zeldin's reaction. Of course, we read that. Caroline Leavitt has the official statement from the Trump-Vance transition team. Last night and this morning, several of President Trump's cabinet nominees, administration appointees, targeted in violent un-American threats to their lives and those who live with them. These attacks range from bomb threats to swatting. In response, law enforcement and other authorities acted quickly to ensure the safety of those who were targeted. So the radical left, or the deep state, I would probably lean towards, I don't know. I can't differentiate between the two these days. But if there's anyone to blame, it all comes back to the radical, hateful rhetoric that has been spewed from this Biden-Harris administration from day one. The people that claim they're going to be the party of unity are the same ones that call you garbage and deplorable. And they call Trump a Nazi and a fascist. And they call you a racist because you wear a MAGA hat. Okay? By their own rhetoric, they have justified in the minds of the radical left to carry out these actions. But to consider the scale of these actions, a dozen at the same time. This is a highly coordinated attack. Okay? It's not just like some random leftist lunatic. This is a highly coordinated attack, all done on the same exact day, using similar methods, swatting or bomb threats. Okay? So, given the scope, I'd have to say it could potentially go into an intelligence apparatus or an operation as in an effort to strike fear into these people, into this Trump administration. But guess what, folks? Here, this is what the left and the deep state just can't seem to figure out: that no weapon formed against him shall prosper. Every single attack they've ever done has always only made Trump and his team stronger. Everything. So they can keep trying, and all it does is it proves our point. It emboldens us. It empowers us to say, look at how loony these people are. And it only makes them look worse. So there you have it, folks. While the deep state orchestrates these terror campaigns against Trump's nominees, one thing is becoming crystal clear. They're desperate. They know Trump's return to power means the end of their corrupt reign. But here is the real question I want you to answer in the comments below. Who do you think is really behind these coordinated attacks? The timing, the targets, the tactics, it's all too perfect to be random. What do you think? And speaking of perfect, while you're sharing your thoughts, don't forget to check out our exclusive MAGAvengers collection at the Next News merch shop. Nothing sends a stronger message to the deep state than wearing your patriotism proudly. These limited edition pieces are flying off the shelves faster than Kamala Harris's campaign hopes.